Last year, Hollywood Studios premiered their first after-hours event to the park, and it was a complete disaster. We covered it here on the channel. Well, apparently Disney is back for more. Have they fixed the problems? I don't know, but Jollywood Nights is returning. Let's talk about that here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is the spirit of Christmas, Mr. VashSky. Vash, who's that up on the rooftop?
That's either Santa Claus or maybe Oogie Boogie. I don't know. Or maybe it was Jack Skellington.
It could be Phineas and Ferb.
That's true.
Yeah, this is an article out of Blog Mickey, the list of new and returning characters for Disney's Jollywood Nights 2024. We have covered this in the past, and I'm sure if YouTube is being helpful to you, they will recommend the Jollywood Nights coverage that we did with a vlogger that we've had on the channel in the past, Miss Shannon Ford. Actually was at the event, and I got to say she was a good representation. She was a fair representation of what happened that day. Talked about what was good, what was bad, where Disney was catering to social media influencers, which she does not include herself in that list of recognized influencers. I wish her all the success, by the way, so that maybe she can be part of those fabled few who got to cut the line and have extended interactions with characters while children like hers waited in line. She had a good spirit about the whole thing, but gotta say, it sounds like they paid a lot of extra money and they were put through the ringer there. You can find that video on the channel. Walt Disney World has announced a list of new and returning characters, however, for Jollywood Nights 2024. Here's the latest. Look at that. It's Duffy Bear. Duffy is somebody that they did not, they threw him away like a piece of rubbish until he became Super Ted. Sorry, that is a very specific reference there for those of you who used to watch Super Ted. Vash, this is a character that Disney did not know what to do with this character until Japan showed them the way.
Yes. That was a character that has its origins in America, first and foremost. And didn't do all that well. And they brought it over to Tokyo, and it just did gangbusters business, just huge numbers, to the point where they launched it in, I believe, Hong Kong and I think Shanghai as well. Did pretty successful over there. And then it was like, hey, let's go ahead and bring it back to the States. And, well, results were mixed, of course. It's just very strange. He just doesn't really get the love of the American consumer that he does overseas.
I'm also going to point out that there are 5 or so members of the Duffy family over there. And according to the straw poll of all the women who live in my house, they are all adorable and they want the entire collection. So Disney, you got to figure this one out. I'm sure there's somebody in consumer products who's trying to figure that one out. Let's say Baloo and King Louie. Jose, he's from Brazil, so I believe it's Jose Carioca and Panchito. I noticed that they're not referring to Panchito by his full name here. Panchito Pistoles from the Three Caballeros, Bo Peep or Lotso from Toy Story, and a lot of returning characters. Now I'm just going to point out a few issues that they had here. There were issues like maps that were paper maps that it was very difficult to tell where things were. The fact that there was no alternate rain locations here. I'm hearing from some of the guests that the drinks were expensive, incredibly watered down, and no fun for the grown-ups. And also that the influencers who would be doing all of the big reviews for all of those channels, that they were getting all of their priority access to the detriment of all these people who were waiting out in the rain for this, well, frankly, rained out event here. I think you might have more to say here, but the question I'm going to have as we go through this is, do we think this is something that Disney has fixed? So go ahead.
I don't know if it's something that Disney's fixed. It's interesting, Jonas. I heard because of the just horrific reviews that were coming out of the initial Jollywood Nights that this would be something that Disney would never do again. And well, it is back for the 2024 season. But in order to relive just how bad this event initially went. This is by WW Magic right here. Disney Jollywood Nights Review, November 13th, 2023 is when this originally came out. And you can see right here, they go over the event. And if you're unfamiliar with Disney Jollywood Nights, Walt Disney World's the latest ticketed event occurring after regular park hours, priced between $159 to $179, depending on the date. And I'm sure for the 2024 season, I haven't looked at the tickets just yet, if they've even started selling them, but I'm sure it'll be a little bit more expensive, as Disney likes to do. The 4-hour event, 4 hours, folks, features 2 new stage shows, festival type food and drink to buy, fireworks, and event exclusive dining.
So let's just also point this out. The fact that it is $159 to $179. So the cost of an entire day at Hollywood Studios, basically, on some days.
Yes.
For 4 hours here.
For 4 hours. Yeah.
And at the time, I'm just also going to point out that Rise of Resistance was not available during some of that time.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. They people were hoping for a Tiana's like event where you get into an after hours event, and maybe Tiana is not on virtual queue. People were expecting that for Rise of Resistance at the time, and yeah, they were not providing Rise of Resistance for the length of time. I think we speculated at the time, Jonas, that it might be because of labor issues. I know that Rise of Resistance does not operate for a full operating day like it should out in Disneyland specifically. I think it starts closing up at 10 now, whereas the park usually closes at midnight, at least during the summer. Very sad. Lines, virtual lines, and no lines. The opening Disney Jollywood Nights was an evening defined by all types of lines, virtual, long, short, and confusing lines. I believe I have to actually look, and if I find this footage, folks, you can actually see it on screen right now. But the lines for this event were some of the
ridiculous lines.
Oh my goodness gracious! I mean, lots of stuff was just they didn't have adequate staffing. They didn't have adequate planning in order to predict just the amount of lines that were at each location. And I believe 2 of the worst ones was for the Tower of Terror themed events over on that side of the park, the Sunset Boulevard side of the park. Those, I guess, went all the way out to maybe even the Carthay Circle facade that's out there, which is quite insane when you think about just how long that is. And then on the flip side was the wristbands for the actual event itself. So remember, with these after-hour events, they kick out basically anybody who isn't part of the event, who maybe was there for a normal operating day. And so in order to indulge in some of those after-hours events and services and so forth, you have to get a wristband. Well, you can get wristbands both outside the park and within the park, and apparently the ones within the park just went all kinds of distance. I mean, it was just a nightmare. I believe taking up maybe 1 to maybe even 2 hours of your event time just getting a wristband in order to take advantage of what you paid for.
Right. And there was no communication because the wristbands and the lanyards were at different locations, and there was no communication on whether or not you needed a wristband or a lanyard. And some of the people on the ground at this event said, oh, if you have one or the other, you're fine. Some events saying, no, you have to have the lanyard. And it's just a nightmare of logistics here. And this is the kind of thing, and we talked about it this last year, where Epcot and Magic Kingdom have been doing after hours events forever. And it's been a big moneymaker for the park. And each of the parks is run by a different executive team. But I'm shocked that someone from Epcot or from Magic Kingdom was not drafted to say, this is how these events work. Because
yes,
this is the kind of siloing that hurts the company. This is supposed to be a company that knows how to synergize all of its brands across all the parks or whatever, and all the television studios and everything. And they apparently left them on their own to come up with an after hours event, when this is a book that does not need to be rewritten. This is a book they have written 100 times over. They're on the revised 6th edition to how to run one of these things perfectly. And for some reason, this was a complete disaster.
Oh, complete disaster. So it rained the first night, I believe, and that canceled a lot of the outdoor events that were supposed to take place, dotted throughout the park. Like you said, the paper maps, very unclear where events were actually supposed to take place. Some of those live events that were actually in indoor facilities were a little bit lackluster. But even like something as simple as meet and greets, for example, for a lot of these very rare characters were mishandled as well. We heard reports that influencers were getting, front of the line access to some of these characters while people were, they had to wait in line. And I believe the guest that we actually had on that Park Place described that that they were in line for a specific character, and then right when they got up, that character went away. So it was just, this was a horrifically planned.
Yes, and I would love to have Shannon back on the channel to talk about this. I don't know if she's planning on going back to Jollywood Nights. I think she didn't rule it out entirely, and maybe you should all go over to Shannon Ford's YouTube channel and see what content she's had over the last year since then here, if you haven't already gone and subscribed. She had favorable reviews, by the way, of this Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas sing-along show.
Yes.
It's one of the few places you can see that giant Jack Skellington puppet, which has been used in other places here, but it's an amazing bit of Imagineering. So there are good things about this event, but to say it had a lot of hitches, did not go off without a hitch here. I don't know. I'm hopeful that they're going to be adding, I'm sure, more merchandise this year, because they added their quote unquote first original character in a very long time with I forget the name of the gingerbread man, Ollie, probably Ollie.
I remember
it's
that.
Supposed to be Jollywood Nights there.
That was its own controversy, right? Because they were claiming that was the first original character since Figment, I believe, and everybody's like, "What about all these?" And it's like, well, that didn't go off without a hitch either. I mean, this thing was it was clearly rushed. It was clearly a cash grab, and this was at a point where I think the Disney company was looking to keep all expenses at a minimum. And unfortunately, the guests paying for this event really got the short end of that stick, and it was really unfortunate. And we'll include our coverage that we had originally of this event down in the description down below. I believe there's a series of videos that we have. I can quickly link for you to relive just how bad Jollywood Nights was. But now it's back, and we're going to be covering this story closely, folks, to see whether or not Disney has maybe learned the lessons that they should have the first time around.
Everybody says we're negative about Disney. I think that they've had an entire year, so I expect that they have fixed a lot of these issues, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility that something else goes wrong. So we're going to stay tuned, of course, on that. Let us know in the comment section down below. As far as after hours events go, do you go to Disney after hours event? I hear that Oogie Boogie Bash is actually pretty cool. Is Jollywood Nights, if you've been to both, let us know your thoughts on the comparison there, or if you're going to go to this one. Like this video, of course, if you like this video. And if you haven't, consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.